This past Sunday, America witnessed its favorite sporting event, and this episode is dedicated to all the amazing touchdowns, monster runs, and bone-crushing hits. So sit back and enjoy. It's the Super Bowl on Game On. Welcome to this special Super Bowl edition of Game On. I'm Austin Nene.
And I'm Marcus Paff. On this episode, we take an inside look at all the festivities that took place over the weekend. Also, we'll sit down with former NFL player Vernon Fox and, of course, break down the big game.
That's right, Marcus. It was a very entertaining year in the National Football League with 32 teams battling to hoist the Lombardi Trophy at year's end. 2 teams, 2 seasons, and 1 eventual champion. San Francisco searching for their first championship since 1994, and Baltimore looking for their first since 2000. Katie McLean has the story of how the San Francisco 49ers and the Baltimore Ravens fought their way to New Orleans.
Hey football fans, this is Katie McLean with your stats from the road to the Super Bowl. Super Bowl 47, held at the Mercedes-Benz Superdome in New Orleans, was headlined this year by Jim Harbaugh of the San Francisco 49ers and his older brother John Harbaugh of the Baltimore Ravens. The San Francisco 49ers started their year with former #1 overall pick Alex Smith at the helm. With Smith, the 49ers raced out to a 6-2 record before their November 11th game against the St. Louis Rams. The ensuing Monday night, Kaepernick got his first ever NFL start and pummeled the Chicago Bears 32-7. 49ers finished the year 5-2 and secured themselves a first-round bye in the playoffs. The Baltimore Ravens began their season hungry for another Super Bowl. Questions arose early in the season if quarterback Joe Flacco was really the future of Baltimore. Having lost defensive captain Ray Lewis to a tricep injury, it looked like Flacco was transforming into the leader Baltimore needed. Flacco and the team would redeem themselves in the playoffs and eventually reach New Orleans. He became the most successful quarterback in NFL postseason history on the road, totaling 6 wins overall. 49ers quarterback Colin Kaepernick played great throughout the end of the regular season. At only 25 years old, the future still looks bright in this San Francisco's quarterback career. On the defensive side of the ball, San Francisco's linebacker Patrick Willis has been the centerpiece of the San Francisco defense. Finally, Ray Lewis, linebacker and Baltimore's captain, went out a champion after injuring his triceps during the regular season. Lewis regained his strength and refocused his team. Trailing 28-6 after a 35-minute power outage, the 49ers came alive and scored 17 points in 4 minutes to close the gap 28-23. After trading a few more scores, the 49ers had the ball inside the Baltimore 10-yard line, down 34-29. The Ravens held the 49ers out of the end zone on 4 consecutive plays and eventually wound up winning the game 34-31. For Game On, this is Katie McLean.
And Marcus, really something to talk about, is the controversial position of the quarterback, not only for San Francisco, but for Baltimore as well. Let's start with San Francisco. Alex Smith starts the year, #1 overall pick from Utah, and then after a tie against St. Louis, he's basically beseeched by Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah, you said it. I mean, that was really the position that everybody had questions about on both Baltimore and San Francisco. In San Francisco, as you just alluded to, it was a quarterback, a bit of a controversy, if you will. Alex Smith had a lot of success. And then ultimately making the switch to Kaepernick, who got it going along the way for those guys. But the same thing in Baltimore. Joe Flacco, a lot of questions surrounding him. Ultimately, he gets it done in the big one.
Exactly.
Well, thank you, Katie. Another look at the road to the Super Bowl. Second-year quarterback Colin Kaepernick ignited a fire in the city of San Francisco with his ability to run and throw. Dual-threat guy, and on almost any NFL defense, he was able to do that. Turned away non-football fans into 49er fans and took the National Football League by storm. Rooting for the 49ers away from San Francisco proved to be a challenge, but one bar here in Las Vegas anyway made it accessible to watch the game and cheer for the 49ers as a unit. Reporter Honey Love has that story.
I'm here at the 215 Saloon where 49er fans gather to watch their favorite team, the San Francisco 49ers, take on who? I don't know. Who cares? We don't even know here because we don't care. It's all about the 49ers here.
San Francisco fans were pumped and ready to go as their team took on the Baltimore Ravens. Along with team spirit, they also brought their touchdown dances. As the the game kicked off, it was filled with some highs and lows. But the 49ers, unable to score a touchdown by halftime, left the fans a bit disappointed.
What are they doing wrong?
It's just our secondary. We let too many plays go behind us. We got to keep them in front of us and get off the field.
Unfortunately, the 49ers were unable to make a comeback from behind.
Tough loss. How are you feeling right now?
It hurts, no doubt, but we fought back, and that's all you could ask for at the end of the day is we fought.
We'll be back next year at the Super Bowl. You'll see.
Emotions are still running high. However, 49er fans remain positive for next season. For Game On, I'm Honey Love.
Thank you, Honey. And Marcus, obviously has to be tough for 49er fans, but it has to be fun to be surrounded by many other 49ers fans to watch the Super Bowl with.
Yeah, it's always a great experience, especially when your team's in the biggest of all games in the country. And you know what? They're going to be back there real soon. A lot of young talent on that 49er team.
Exactly. All right, on the flip side of things, Carl Winder got to go inside a local bar here in Las Vegas to see what the Baltimore Ravens fans had to offer on their big day. Reporter Carl Winder has more.
Super Bowl parties are done throughout the Las Vegas Valley, but for many local Raven fans, there's only one spot they flock to. And for the owners of this restaurant, there is great pride in that slogan. Raven fans of all ages gathered to the Crab Corner, which is the official home of the Baltimore Ravens.
It's fantastic. Yeah, we really like it. And we've been very fortunate, especially coming from Maryland and coming out to Vegas and not really having a place to congregate to watch some of the games. It was a good fit for us.
Throughout the game, it was an emotional roller coaster for fans, no matter if they were about to lose the lead.
Come on, John, do something!
Or if they scored a touchdown. But in the end, all the Super Bowl commercials and halftime shows in the world could match up to the Ravens' impending victory. After the game, fans were ecstatic.
Great Ravens! We've been waiting for this one for 10 years! Woo! We are so excited! We're representing in Vegas for Baltimore.
Crabs and championships for these fans here at the Crab Corner. That's what Baltimore Raven football is for all about. For Game On, I'm Carl Winder.
Thank you, Carl. Obviously, it looks like a lot of fun down at the Crab Corner. The fun stopped for San Francisco, but just kept going for Baltimore.
Yeah, I wish I could have been a part of that. Carl, where was the invitation last week, man? I would have had a lot of fun down there on Sunday. But yeah, you said it. Baltimore going to be partying for the next few weeks on this high.
Yeah, it's going to be a great thing. One interesting fact, obviously also, since 2002, this was the first Super Bowl that hasn't included Tom Brady, Eli or Peyton Manning, and or Ben Roethlisberger.
It says a lot about those quarterbacks, doesn't it?
It was a huge deal, so obviously that was something to look forward to. All right, we are going to take a quick break, but on the other side, I will be joined by former NFL player Vernon Fox. Make sure, stay with us. Game On, right after this.
I remember the moment.
I'll never forget that moment.
That moment?
It was a moment that changed my life. I'd been training with my team for months, and now we had been called up for the first time. The real deal. Wildfires were getting dangerously close to homes. At that moment, I got my first taste of just how important the Guard is to my community.
See how the Guard can be an important part of your life at NationalGuard.com.
What you doing, Dad?
My favorite thing.
Really, Dad? What are you doing?
Paying bills. Every month a stack of them come, just as regular as the rain.
What's this one?
That's a special one, son. I paid it first.
How come?
It's money for my retirement account. I put some money aside each month, just like I was paying a bill.
Wouldn't you rather buy something?
I don't want to work forever, and I don't want you to have to support me in my old age. In a way, I'm buying peace of mind. I'm on the installment plan.
Something's not right.
My first symptoms were
constant tingling in my toes.
Double vision. They said you have multiple sclerosis.
Kind of had to get a grasp on reality.
I had to adapt and change very rapidly.
We had to learn how to drive with my hands. Yeah, that was interesting.
A symptom may cause you not to be able to do that anymore. And at one point, I wasn't able to do any of those.
Since I've been cycling, it's definitely helped my walking.
It's a fantastic opportunity to be working together with a common goal of curing MS, and sharing is the key.
Welcome back to Game On. We're joined in studio today by Las Vegas native and former NFL safety Vernon Fox. Vernon, thanks so much for taking some time out of your day to be with us.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right, Super Bowl Sunday. What were you doing?
You know what? It was a Sunday, so I was at church. I participated in what they call Super Soul Sunday. So I had an opportunity to speak at a church, and it's always fun. Loose atmosphere, wearing jerseys, and like everyone else, I was sitting in front of the TV after that, watching the exciting game.
Were you rooting for a team in particular?
You know what? I'm an underdog kind of guy, so I kind of wanted to see the 49ers win, but I think in the back of my heart, I didn't think that they'd be able to pull it out, and it proved to be so.
Now, you talked about church a lot. What have you been involved with since your days in the NFL here in Las Vegas?
Well, I am a minister, and so naturally I transitioned into doing that on a more of a full-time basis after my playing days ended. And aside from that, been working with some phenomenal people represented by Endeavor Media Group, and they kind of represent me and open up doors in regards to speaking for corporate occasions as well as community-based and ministerial things. So I'm kind of out there doing a lot, radio and a little bit of TV now, so I'm enjoying it.
Very nice. You played 8 seasons in the NFL. Let's talk about your playing days a little bit. What were your highlights? What did you enjoy most about the NFL?
I think just overall the experience. I mean, having an opportunity to live out a dream with the average career span being around 3.5 years, having a chance to more than double that was just phenomenal. I played for 4 teams in 8 years and, moved around a lot, played under some great coaches, some great teammates, and the experience altogether was just phenomenal.
We were talking about Washington, obviously playing in Washington, Denver, San Diego. Did you have a favorite spot?
I think overall I'd have to say the Redskins, the entire experience. My wife and I, we loved the city. We were living in Northern Virginia, right there in metropolitan D.C. area, playing for legendary coach Joe Gibbs and just some great teammates. I think overall that's etched out in my mind probably as the best experience of my NFL career.
Playing safety for 8 years, obviously a very physical position to play. NFL player safety now a huge issue. How are you doing after your playing days in the NFL?
You know what? I think anyone that's played the game as long as I did, you'll experience some residual effects of banging your head around and your body. And so I do suffer a little bit from some of those things. Had the unfortunate experience of having a little bit of migraine headaches and, just those things that come along with it. But I'll say that I'm blessed, to still be walking around and doing relatively well. I'm able to, do things with my kids and play. But I think in the back of your mind, it's always a concern as to the future of your health, with all of the things that are kind of being laid out there now and the information that's been made available.
Obviously, we talked a little bit beforehand about keeping your body in shape after your playing days. What are you doing to keep your body in shape after having played in the NFL?
You know what? I think one thing I learned is that when I was inactive is when I experienced more pain and discomfort than when I'm actually still working out, taking care of myself. And so it's really become a lifestyle for me, beyond my playing days, eating properly, working out, and I do a lot of training, so I want to look the part if I'm going to be out there showing someone else what they need to be doing to look healthy and to be fit.
Exactly. Was there ever a wide receiver in the NFL? I have to ask this question just because of personal knowledge. Is there ever a wide receiver that you were just in awe of, somebody that you grew up admiring and you actually got to play against them in the NFL?
I had a chance to play against some of the greats, and as a rookie, when I was in San Diego, Jerry Rice was still with the Oakland Raiders, and I will never forget stepping on the same field with Jerry Rice, and that was just one of the greatest experiences I think I can ever recall. And I actually have a picture that someone sent me, they found on Google, and it's a picture of me, kind of checking Jerry Rice. So no one has to know what happened on that play, but it was a great experience to have played against people like of his caliber.
Right. Well, Vernon, thank you so much for joining us in studio today.
Thank you, Austin.
When we come back, we will have Marcus sitting down with Alex Bull. Stay tuned.
You could choose to join a gang. You could try the latest drugs. You could even choose to drop out of school. You can try to avoid the difficulties in life with a quick fix, or you can face them head on. She did. Make the right choices today and be ready for the challenges tomorrow. This message is brought to you by the U.S. Air Force.
found every hazard out here today? Think again. The spot you missed could be a killer. That spot on your skin could be skin cancer. Fact is, if you're a man over 50, you're in a group most likely to develop skin cancer, including melanoma, the kind that kills one person every hour. 1 in 5 Americans is likely to develop a form of skin cancer during their lifetime. That's why your best shot is to check for a spot. It's easy. Follow through and check your skin. It could be the save of a lifetime. Go to spotskincancer.org to find out how. A message from the American Academy of Dermatology.
Welcome back into Game On. My name is Marcus Paff, joined now by former UNLV men's tennis player and, for the day anyway, current Super Bowl aficionado Alex Bull. Alex, also a native of London, England. Thanks for joining us here today on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Well, Alex, I want to start off and get your perspective as somebody who didn't grow up in the U.S. Talk to me a little bit about what you knew about not only the Super Bowl, but American football in general growing up in London.
Well, the sport of football, we're not brought up with it, such as football, basketball, baseball. We have our own soccer, rugby, cricket. So when I first came over, I wasn't a big fan of football. It takes like 4 hours. And but after these years of being here, I've grown. Like this past full season, I went to go and watch my first ever game. I went to watch the Miami Dolphins versus Arizona Cardinals, and that was one of the best moments of my life. I enjoyed it thoroughly.
Now, everybody knows, at least Americans, I think, presume that soccer is probably the big sport, both in London and then all across Europe. Talk to me a little bit about that. How do the two cultures compare? American football seems to have some pretty rabid fans, but I think at least most of us who haven't been across the pond presume that it's the same thing with the soccer culture. Is that fair to say?
Oh, no, definitely fair to say. Soccer, which I would call football.
Absolutely. My apologies. Yes.
Their fans are very rowdy. They love their sport, just like the NFL fans. They love their sports. And it can get violent, but you can't change that in sport. It's always going to happen. Fans are going to be dedicated towards their teams. They're going to stick with their teams no matter what. And yeah, just growing up, soccer was definitely the sport to play.
No doubt. Now, Super Bowl Sunday, you said you've become a bit of a fan since you've come over. Where were you? Where did you take in the game?
I actually watched it at home.
You did?
Yeah.
Any friends over? Any food
No, we just had, me and my roommate just watched it because, we're not too big on football.
Sure.
But it is always a great sport to watch.
Now, when you call back home and maybe you're talking to your parents or any of your relatives or friends back home, what's their take on American football right now? Is it still something that, do they care about the Super Bowl? If you were back in London, would they be watching it, or is it just something that, maybe if we catch it, we catch it? But
well, this year they actually broadcast it on the BBC channel. They had, I think it was on BBC One, the whole game, and then Sky Sports, which is the biggest sports network in Europe, they broadcasted the NFL. And I actually had friends stay up and watched it. They were staying up till about, I think, 4 o'clock in the morning, still watching the Super Bowl, commentating Beyonce's performance. Don't know if that had a big thing in it. But no, but with the older generation, such as my parents, because they weren't brought up with football or American football, they don't really know much about it, so they weren't keen as the younger generation.
Sure. Now, do you see the game spreading maybe across the pond a bit? I know that's certainly been something that Roger Goodell, commissioner of the NFL, has talked about, is trying to bring the NFL over to London and across the pond, I guess, as I like to call it. Do you see that? Do you see that the culture starting to become a little bit more pervasive across
Oh, definitely.
London?
They brought the Rams and New England Patriots to come and play at Wembley last fall. And they've done an NFL game in Wembley for every year. And it's not just football. They're trying to bring the NBA. They had the Knicks and Pistons play over Christmas. So I think the potential to grow is the English League is even trying to make an NFL go at it. It's obviously not as big, but it can.
Sure. Now, let's go a little bit more culturally in depth, I guess, because obviously the Super Bowl as a sport is one thing, but at least in America, it's kind of a bit of a cultural icon in some ways. You've got the halftime show, you've got all the lead up to that. You've got the commercials if you're watching it on TV. Is that something that folks across the way might take note of? People in Europe, people in London? Is that something that they might discuss after the fact?
I think it's a big thing. I think a lot of people did watch it because of the halftime and because of word of mouth. The Super Bowl is massive for commercials. Advertising is the biggest throughout the year. And so I think a lot of British people, or my people, will watch it because of that, and then watch the game, obviously.
No question. Well, Alex, I appreciate you coming on today, shedding some insight into American football as it's seen across the way over in London, England. Once again, my thanks to Alex for joining us here on Game On. Coming up after the break, we'll take a look at some of the upcoming events here on UNLV's campus. For Game On, I'm Marcus Path.
At what age is the color that your skin was meant to be no longer beautiful? Every year, millions of young women try to change the skin they were born with and say they'd die for darker skin. Sadly, some actually do. Melanoma is the second most common cancer in teens and young adults 15 to 29. And one person dies from melanoma every hour. It's time. Change your thinking, not your skin. Stop tanning. Learn more at spotSkinCancer.org. A message from the American Academy of Dermatology.
If you could see anything in the world, what would it be?
I'd love to see Paris.
I like to see cupcakes falling from the sky.
My daughter, married and happy.
I want to see things the way I used to.
Chances are, someone you love may one day be affected by macular degeneration or glaucoma. Log on to seeabettertomorrow.org or call 1-800-437-2423 to learn about glaucoma and macular degeneration. Call 1-800-437-2423 or log on to seeabettertomorrow.org.
I just want to see more of the things I love.
Welcome back from the break. Time now for a look at upcoming sporting events here at UNLV. February 13th through the 17th, the Runnin' Rebels fly to Colorado to play against Air Force in hopes to get their road record above 500. And then men come back home to defend the Thomas and Mack Center against San Diego State, which is always an exciting game to watch. The Lady Rebels will also take on Air Force and San Diego State this weekend, led by Kelly Thompson, who recently scored a career-high 33 points. Also, head coach Kathy Olivier reached a milestone, recording her 300th career win over Boise State. Rebels softball competes in the Easton Desert Classic at Eller Media Stadium. The men and women Rebels tennis teams take the court Friday the 15th. The men match up against BYU, and the women go against San Jose State. February 15th, 16th, and 17th, Rebels baseball season starts versus perennial contender in the SEC, Tennessee. February 20th through the 24th, men's golf spring season starts with a trip to Hawaii for the John Burns Intercollegiate at Turtle Bay Resort. Swimming and diving Mountain West Championship for the men and women also take place, and the Runnin' Rebels and Lady Rebels take on Colorado State and Wyoming. Women's track Mountain West Championships begin as well, and the Rebels baseball hits the road to play against Gonzaga and Pacific. February 25th and 26th, women's golf spring season begins with the Cal Invite at Pleasanton, California. Well, that'll do it for this week's upcoming events. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, our final thoughts, and we'll wrap up this week's episode. Stay with us. This is Game On.
For others, it may have just been a summer job. But for me, it was training. Now I'm an Air Force pararescueman, and my job is to save lives. Make the right choices today and be ready for the challenges tomorrow. This message is brought to you by the U.S. Air Force.
Winston, just one more inning, Grandma.
Ever notice how many things today kids can do without actually moving? A whole lot of things their parents used to do the hard way. So many kids' activities today seem to leave out the activity part, which makes exercise even more important for children. In fact, new research tells us the best time to enhance bone development is during childhood and adolescence. And just getting children to walk an extra 35 minutes a day could spare them the pain of thinning bones later in life. Healthy bones come from healthy habits. Encourage your kids to get up, get out, and get moving.
Hello. Hey, Grandma, how about another grape soda?
A public service message on building strong bones for kids from the Pediatric Orthopedic Society of North America and the American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons.
Welcome back to Game On. Now, Marcus, this next upcoming week, we're going to talk a lot about women's basketball. Obviously, the Rebels going into some big games against Air Force and San Diego State. What are they going to have to do to come out victorious in those games?
Well, the Lady Rebels are a young team this year, and I think they knew that coming into the season, that they were really going to have to find their identity as they went. It's kind of a feeling out process, if you will. Senior point guard Mia Bell, Las Vegas native, goes down prior to the season ever starting, and that puts a lot of pressure on Kelly Thompson, who, give all the credit in the world to her. She stepped up big time, has done a great job, but it really puts a lot of pressure on her. And as the seasons progress, these young players are really starting to find their groove and find their niche. And good things are on the horizon for this Lady Rebel team.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Marcus. That wraps up our show today. I'm Austin Inning.
And I'm Marcus Paff. Make sure to stay tuned for upcoming episodes featuring UNLV's Runnin' Rebels. Have a great day, Las Vegas.